There's not a single company in the world right now that is testing voice agents that has raised a Series A. At Bluejay, we have like a very strong belief that within 5 years, every company in the world with a public-facing phone number will be using a voice agent.
No, how does that work? I mean, like you're just two people doing like 200K ARR. You're less than 6 months old.
We need Soham. Man. But there are no benchmarks that exist right now that tell you how well your specific agent was at scheduling an appointment. So we're like, man, this is the real problem here. Like, I run a machine learning account called Faraz.ml.
Is it doing well?
No. It is.
It will.
With like your voice agent, it's virtually indiscernible from like a real human being, right? And it's just like, holy crap.
Are you kidding me? I need some real help here. I just need 2 business class tickets from New York to Los Angeles next Friday. Can you handle it or not?
Yeah, I get it. Calm down. Let's see if we can get this sorted. So 2 business class tickets, New York to Los Angeles.
So, hey everyone, welcome to the Smallest podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk with Faraz Siddiqi. He's the founder of Bluejay. And Faraz, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey, so Faraz, this is discussion around your journey to building Bluejay, what lies ahead, and so on. So it's not something I typically prepare. It's like usually it's a very natural, free-flowing conversation. Super excited to have you. Where are you dialing in from today?
I am dialing in from San Ramon, my hometown.
Awesome. And where are you originally from? Are you from the SF or somewhere else?
I was born and raised, actually. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I was born in like Palo Alto, actually. And I grew up in San Ramon. And yeah, I'm actually at home right now. So our company is currently moving headquarters, I guess, from our post-YC apartment to from our YC apartment to like a post-YC house, like a larger space.
Nice.
So we can have a bit more room for our engineers and just building out the company on our path to raising our A.
Nice. Awesome. You're talking about an A already. So,
yeah. But yeah, always have to keep that in mind.
Awesome. No, thanks for us. So maybe I think I'll just quickly start off like with the first question. Like, if you could tell us a little bit about your background of maybe growing in SF and like what sort of got you here? Who are you? Where do you come from? What was it growing here? What led to Bluejay? And that would be a good icebreaker.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, I was born here in the Bay Area. Born in Palo Alto, moved around for a bit when I was growing up, ended up somewhere like Dublin, San Ramon area. So that's East Bay. It's around maybe 40, 50 minutes away from SF. So I grew up there, went to high school here as well. Then I went to college in UIUC. It's the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It's in Chicago, or a little bit south of Chicago. And it was great. It was an absolute great time. I did my undergrad there in computer science and in advertising. I did it in 3 years. And then I did my master's in computer science as well in 1 year, where I did research in high quality synthetic data generation and context compression for language models. That was a quite transformative experience. I think that's a bit of what underpins the research on Bluejay today. It's kind of how we arrived here. But before I went to Bluejay, I actually went and I worked at Microsoft for a bit. And I was working on the Copilot team, the Azure Copilot team in New York. And I was building agents for Microsoft. And within a year's time, I left. Me and my co-founder Rohan, we ended up starting Bluejay, which is building a quality assurance platform for voice agents. But we didn't initially start by building, the testing platform for AI agents, because I don't think anyone really starts off by thinking about testing. I mean, I'm sure Sudarshan, you're of course like in the software background and everything. Testing is the last thing you think about.
Yeah, we hate it.
Right? Yeah. So no, trust me, dude, I hate it too. And you might be wondering, how the heck did you start, building a testing company for AI agents? And that's because, at some point it had to be done, especially in our journey. So when me and Rohan, we were working before, a testing platform called Bluejay, we were working on an unnamed idea that was building voice agents for restaurants. Of course, very novel, undiscovered, totally new industry, quote unquote, right? But essentially, I was in New York and he was in Seattle, and we would walk around up and down like our streets, like my Ave and his neighborhood.
So I really want to know about this story, but I just want the audience to also get introduced to Rohan, and like, how did Rohan like happen? Like, how do you know each other, and what's that story about?
Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna have to ask Rohan's parents on how he happened, but how we met was I was in town for a conference in Seattle for Microsoft, and Rohan was actually like very good friends with my freshman year roommate. His name was Shalin. So I was hanging out with Shalin, and he introduced me to Rohan. Rohan had worked on a startup in college and had done quite well, and I had also worked on a startup as well in college, and we just talked for like hours about like, hey, like, working on startups in college, like what was the experience like? Like, oh my gosh, he had a lot of similar experiences. It was a great time. I asked him what he's doing now, and he's like, okay, I'm at AWS. He was working on Bedrock.
Nice.
And, and I was like, okay, so how's that experience? And he's like, yeah, it's good. But it's nothing like the startup world, right?
Nice.
So like I guess like the involvement that, like the conclusion that we both came to is like the satisfaction that we were receiving from working on startups was like nowhere near, in like a bad way, almost like we were receiving a lot more satisfaction working on startups than we were working in corporate jobs. I'll give you like a bit of background on like what my setup was. So like I was living in New York, right? My office was in Times Square, right? Like literally like in the center of Times, like the great office. I was living with my best friend, my best friend since like probably early high school, maybe even middle school. And I was working between 30 and 40 hours a week. Pretty standard for Microsoft. And like it was a great time. Like my high school friends were there, some of my college friends were there. Like the food was great. Community was great. So like externally, at least my life was like very idyllic, right? And like, like everything sorted basically. Like by the auntie's definition, I was doing very well. Right?
You could go become a senior, I don't know, manager at Microsoft in 5 years, probably something like that. So
I'm unsure about the timeline, but it was definitely very choreographed, right? Like,
right.
You know
what you're gonna end up being.
Exactly, right? Like you can kind of see your pathway for like 10, 15 years down the line. But like in the end, I had gone from, doing like my master's and working on a company in college and like putting in like the hours and feeling satisfaction and like gratification from the work that I was doing to not feeling a connection to my work whatsoever, working post-grad. And that was something that really irked me, right? It was like, hey, like I'm like doing this work, but there is no like, I felt like a lot less satisfaction, turning in like, pushing PRs or like, like reviewing someone's code or writing these design docs. It felt like very muted. And in my mind, I was like, dude, like I could, the corporate world's always going to be there. And like, this pathway is like, it's very, once again, it's very telegraphed. I could see exactly what's going to happen. Might as well like, not do that initially while I'm 22 years old. I'm now 23. And instead just go all in on something that I actually, have a lot of conviction on and I strongly believe. And that was the world of voice. Right. So that's kind of where me and Rohan started tinkering. We started tinkering by building, voice agents, for restaurants. Right.
Did you like quit your job before you started working, or was it like, hey, I'm like, let's start exploring, and then there was a point when you're like, we need to do this full time, man? Like, how did that journey go?
Bluejay started off as a bit of a side project, right? And the way it kind of worked was that me and Rohan were very curious to see, we liked voice agents, and in fact, I was at the time, I was not feeling very fulfilled by the work that I was doing in the corporate job, right? At Microsoft. And one outlet that I use to like keep myself technically sharp, right? And like exercise my skills after my master's is, ironically enough, starting a social media account. So like on my Instagram and my TikTok, I run a machine learning account called Faraz.ml, and like
nice.
I just post about whatever. Just no, it's
It will. It will.
I had like one video that like reached over 1 million views, and like basically I stopped posting on it as soon as we got into Y Combinator, just because we had like no more time, and I had started in like January, so yeah, it has 1,000 followers, so
Not bad.
I don't know, but it did its job in the sense that like one of the things that I happened to post about was about voice agents and about like the voice agent pipeline, like LLMs, SDTTTS, right, VAD, and that piqued Rohan's interest. He's like, oh, I didn't know you were also thinking about voice agents. Like, why don't we start doing stuff with voice agents? So we started walking around. We're like, okay, like, how do we use these voice agents? Like, what kinds of problems can we solve with voice agents? And the most accessible market to us was restaurants, right? Because going to restaurants all the time, right? They're consistently available. And so what we did was I walked down my Ave. I was living on 3rd Ave in New York City in Manhattan. And I just talked to like 30, 40 restaurants. I just went door to door, right? Like if someone says no, I just move on. Someone says yes, I take their number and I move on, right? And I tried to just ask them what their problems were. Like, hey, like, like, what's the issue here? Like, what's the problem, right? And people would give me like a lot of like, they would give me no responses, give me like BS responses, give me way too detailed responses. But what was consistent was the fact that everyone was always on the phone, right? They were always like, oh, 1 second, hold up, and they would take an order, right? So like I was like, okay, interesting. Like, they seem to be on the phone a lot. I wonder how much time we could free up if they were not on their phone and instead like fully engaged in their customer experience. So that's where we started off. We started off by building voice agents for restaurants.
So just to sort of double click on the problem at this point a little bit more, why do you think like in the age of like DoorDash and like, these sort of online ordering providers, people are still calling restaurants? And is this a problem that is, I know this is not a problem you ended up solving, but like, do you at that point feel like this is a problem that is like big enough to go into?
So it definitely is a concern, right? Where you have like providers that are, like DoorDash and Grubhub and, these types of companies that essentially take the calling in and ordering like phenomena and like they kind of deprecate it, right? In favor of, like DoorDash pickup or, like straight to home delivery. But I challenge you to think of the last time that you DoorDashed your favorite Thai place that was 2 blocks down the street. Like I think in the end we're creatures of habit, right? And like I've been calling my local Thai spot and my local like wings spot since I was in like high school, since I was in 10th grade, and I will continue to keep on calling these people. So I think there's like certain types of restaurants that will just keep on just thriving on phones, and we saw that with a couple of restaurants that Rohan talked to and a couple of restaurants that I were talking to as well. They tend to be restaurants that are smaller, that are like more like mom and pop, that, their phone is like really like their main, point of contact, with their customers.
Right. And I guess like hyper local, like you mentioned, like neighborhood type place, like why would I want a DoorDash to come and like do, maybe they just deliver. So makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
there's like a slight price markup, right? Like, with delivery and with even with pickup, there's a markup. So for those who are like on their way home, it's actually like more like it's cheaper for them, right? To go and just call in and pick it up. So I don't think the medium is going to disappear anytime soon. But I will say, like from our like short foray into this world of building the voice agents for restaurants, like we sense that it was shrinking, right? Like the iPhone industry for restaurants is slowly shrinking because people are like opting into communicating less to receive their meals nowadays, which is fine.
Yeah. I think people are communicating less in general. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But interesting. So you started as a voice agent for restaurants for taking orders, essentially. And how did that go?
So, well, obviously we're not doing that anymore. But so what ended up happening is this, right? So we got a couple of restaurants interested, and we started out building demos for these people, or not demos. We finished the demo stage, but we started out building like actual products for these people, like pilots. And like the idea is that they would go and use our restaurants to take in orders, right? One of the classic tasks that we got from, a couple of the restaurants that were interested was, hey, like transcribe my or like, basically like make sure that the voice agent can handle my entire menu, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like taking orders, right? There's like 3 big capabilities that a voice agent for restaurants should be able to do. It's like taking orders, answering questions about the restaurant, like general FAQ questions about like store hours and whatever. And then finally placing reservations, right? So the orders was like there's a massive part of it, right? And like we found that like, a restaurant has on average like, 30 to 40 menu items, right? That you can go like with substitutions kind of create an order. But, calling in and basically adding them all to your voice agents, like, system prompt or just knowledge base, like somewhere, right? As you have a larger and larger menu size, or as you add more and more substitutions, the likelihood that your bot hallucinates gets higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
Or just the likelihood that your bot not even just hallucinates, but like just says something that's like not according to the flow that you would expect, right? So there's like issues across the stack, right? So one thing that we did was, in order to make sure that we delivered a high quality product to our end restaurant customers or would be customers, was to test the rig that we had created, right? This voice agent pipeline that we had created. And the way that we would do that is that Rohan and I would go and pick up the phone and act like we were going to order, a menu item off of this restaurant. So for example, if like we're ordering for a salad place, right, we would say, hey, can I have like the salad with like XYZ, like toppings and, like this kind of substitution and that kind of thing, right? And we would test the voice agent's capability to actually place the order. So we would monitor like, hey, like first of all, is like the order being transcribed correctly? Is it being sent to like, is it being set to our database correctly? Like, is it integrating with our Square POS correctly, right? And actually registering as an order. So like, there's a bunch of like small things that we need to make sure of, right? But if you were to take them out, like, if you were to like do some like time analysis on this, right? It's like 3 to 5 minutes to actually place the order and get substitutions and like talk about like, estimated delivery time and whatever, or pickup time. And then on top of that, another 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate whether the call went well after the call ended, i.e. like, was the order placed? Did I get to this point in the system? Was the POS, API call, like, called, all these kinds of things, right? So like, we're looking at around like, like 6 to 8 minutes per call end to end plus evaluation to make sure that one like combination of like order plus substitution worked, right? And like, 30 to 40 menu items plus, like maybe multiply that by a couple times for substitutions. And all of a sudden you have like hundreds of different combinations, right? That just for a restaurant, like a simple restaurant voice agent, it should be able to cover, right?
Yeah.
So like we went through this process of calling, and trying out every single combination, every single restaurant menu order. And we're like, damn, this sucks. Like, we've literally, yes, we've exhaustively now tested, whether every single menu item that our voice agent can handle every single menu item. But the issue here is that if we were to make one change to our system prompt, right, we have no guarantee that it's going to impact anything else in the entire process, right? So it's going to take days to do this if you wanted to exhaustively test, make one change, exhaustively test, right? So we're like, man, this is the real problem here. Like, there is no reliable way to test your voice agents after you build them.
Yeah, it's just so hectic. I mean, it's just so time consuming to do it, right? Like, you build the thing. And I think this is the first time it's happening because we are productionizing a probabilistic system. So with software, at least like you could manually write tests, but like, how do you write tests for like AI? I think in general, like even if we talk about agents, not just voice, but like generally, it's such a big unsolved problem today. So very interesting. And was it like something particular about like, let's say voice agent? So I think you started off now, then going into voice agent testing. So is that a different problem than AI agent testing in general? Is it more difficult? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, so I will say that Bluejay is tending not towards voice in its future. So like, in fact, even right now, we've just released like V1 of our multimodal QA testing agent, right? So we're texting, we're doing SMS texting, like, like multi-channel, right? But yes, we did start off with voice, and of course, the main reason was that we were previously building voice agents. So the problem that we were facing, we wanted to directly solve. But as we like kind of took a more like disciplined view into like the space of AI agent testing, we found that this was actually a really interesting niche to start off with, right? There's not a single company in the world right now that is testing voice agents that has raised a Series A, right? And the space is very nascent, right? And the reason why is because voice AI is quite nascent in the first place, right? Like voice AI is having like its ChatGPT 2022 explosion moment, but now, right? And like at Bluejay, we have like a very strong belief that within 5 years, every company in the world with a public facing phone number will be using a voice agent. So this is like the right time to get involved.
Yeah. Makes sense. So how did the journey then go? Like once you decided the testing the restaurant agents is like so difficult, what did the direction change look like?
So we're like, hey, there has to be a better way to do this, right? We can't just be manually calling our voice agent every single time. And then whenever, a restaurant inevitably decides to change their menu because it's a different season or they want to try something new, we have to retest the whole thing, right? There has to be some kind of automated way of doing this. So we thought about what we did. And like what we did was we acted as our own customers and we called our voice agent hundreds of times, right? And at the end of the calls, we evaluated to see whether these calls would make, were successful or not on a bunch of criteria that we had predefined, right? So we're like, let's just automate that, right? So what we did is we created a bunch of simulated humans on our platform. We call them digital humans, right? That go and call your voice agent hundreds of times in parallel to make sure that your voice agent is able to do what it's supposed to do.
Right. And I mean, maybe a lot of your background from the synthetic data generation that you had worked on is getting used here. Maybe could you talk a little bit more, because testing, now you're talking about testing probabilistic systems, you need a distributed sort of set of tests, and like what's the sort of science of this? Like how does it look like?
So it's actually like a deceivingly complex problem, I would say. And the reason why is because with regular like LLM, benchmarking, right? You have like standardized benchmarks that you actually can use for multiple different releases of LLMs, even though, nowadays in papers, everyone releases their new LLM with the new benchmark that they're also the best at, right? But like we have these like, exactly. There's actually this really funny paper that is talking about how to benchmark benchmarks. And it disqualifies a series of benchmarks based upon, it's funny, but, but anyways, like the reason why it's deceivingly complex, right, is because we have regular LLM benchmarks like GSMK8 or, passkey retrieval benchmarks or whatever, right, that could test to see whether an LLM is good at this general reasoning task or this general math task, right? But there are no benchmarks that exist right now that tell you how well your specific agent or your agent was at scheduling an appointment for a healthcare clinic on June 12th, 2025, right? Yeah. There's no benchmark because like the task is too specific, right? And this goes for any like generalizing this one step higher is like, hey, there is no benchmark for AI agents in specific industry verticals as a task that's increasingly more specific, right? So then the question is like, okay, fine, like we can't really benchmark how good like one scheduling agent is against another scheduling agent is right now because we just don't have enough data. So how do we like at least guarantee or have some level of guarantee that it's going to succeed in a customer facing environment, right? So that is where like the thesis of Bluejay comes in, right? It's like, hey, listen, like we are going to make sure that or at least give you the highest probability that your agent is going to work in an actual customer environment by just simulating hundreds of customer interactions with your agent, right? And we're going to tell you over these hundreds of interactions where your agent is not performing, right? So for example, like if we notice that in 23% of your interactions, your agent is not giving a confirmation message after scheduling an appointment, right? We're going to tell you that and be like, hey, by the way, like this is what you should change in your system prompt to make sure that happens. And like this idea of like iterating, right, on your system prompt or changing like your infrastructure or maybe like, modifying your like multi-agent handoff, like whatever it is you need to change, right? You change it over and over again until you get to a certain threshold that you're comfortable with on Bluejay. Like we can go all the way to 100%, but it's up to you, like where you want to draw the line, whether it's 90, 95, right? We're just basically giving you the tools to be confident that your voice agent is going to do what it's supposed to do.
Interesting. And so when you talk about, for example, tests, right? So you mentioned the specific hospital appointment booking test. So when we say 100%, like, I mean, there are so many cases, like literally you could say it fails for 22nd June and works for 21st June. I don't know. I mean, I'm just coming up with there is so much exploration that you could do. Maybe the corner cases are like too many. So how do you sort of make this like probabilistically maximized sort of tests that you do so that you know that this is the highest chance of success if we run these tests versus some other test? Because I'm sure you're not like actually testing every single scenario, right? You have to take a probabilistic approach to it. Like, so how do you think about that?
Yeah. So the way that we do it is we break an agent down into its component goals, right? So like we have two types of testing on Bluejay. We have like top-down testing and we have bottoms-up testing, right? And the idea is that your agent, like in the top-down approach, has a series of capabilities that it is supposed to be able to do. Like, for example, for an appointment schedule, for like a healthcare front desk agent, it should be able to schedule appointments. It should be able to answer questions about the pharmacy. It should be able to do, XYZ, right? Like maybe follow up on cancellations or send a reminder text, like one day before, right? But the idea is that you as the user of Bluejay, right? Like our customers, they basically list the capabilities that their agent is supposed to do, right? Another very good example of this is like, hey, like for the restaurant agency, right? For the restaurant industry, hey, like should be able to place, orders for anything on the menu, and then they include the menu in the knowledge base, right? So the idea is that once we have those goals, what we do is we generate digital humans like on Bluejay, which are basically agents that have knowledge of what your agent is supposed to be able to do. And they create customer personas in such a way that they call your agent saying, hey, like I am a person that needs like, hi, my name is like Alex. And I actually want to schedule an appointment for my son, right? And my son is having this problem and, like some medical problem. And like, I need an appointment for sometime next week. What times do you have? Right. And then they go back and forth. They agree upon a time. And that's how you know that when you run 100 simulations for Alex or variants of Alex, right? For Martha, for James, for Bob, right? That your agent has, with a certain degree of confidence, the ability to schedule an appointment, right? So just to go like back, like to what you were saying, right? Like the idea of like how we know that, or how we provide confidence that your agent is going to be able to do what it's supposed to do is first you tell us, like what your agent's supposed to do via these goals. And the second thing that we do is we generate a bunch of digital humans that test your agent's ability to do that thing, right? And then third, after those interactions happen, we tell you how successful writ large those interactions were.
Nice. Got it. Very, very interesting. And these personas are they like easy to sort of specialize based on the use case? And how does that work? Or is it so is it like as a customer, I just have to tell you, look, these are the capabilities, and you are going to spin up the personas for me. You're going to sort of handle it end to end. You're also going to suggest improvements to the prompt. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So the idea is we tell you exactly what went wrong in this call, right? Exactly why the simulation failed. But yeah, like you totally nailed it. Like the idea is that you tell us what your agent is supposed to do, and we generate like hundreds of digital humans, and you get to specify, of course, how much you want. That can test your agent's abilities to achieve each of the goals that you've outlined on our platform, right? So it's a very intuitive way of thinking about it, right? It's like, hey, listen, I'm building a voice agent. Here are the things that it's supposed to be able to do. And now Bluejay is going to test each of those things by provisioning like hundreds of digital humans that represent your customers that are going to call with the goal in mind of testing that one goal of your agent, right? So like 50 digital humans will call saying, hey, listen, like I want to schedule appointments for varying times. 50 digital humans will call saying, hey, like I want to, see if your like penicillin is in stock or Tylenol is in stock, right? To test that goal, right? And 50 humans will call to like maybe place orders, on your menu, right? So like that's kind of how like the high level idea works. And the big thing of all of this is that like the big value here is that we're saving you a lot of time, right? We're doing all of these calls in parallel, right? Meaning that like you could simulate around a month of customer interaction in 5 minutes.
Nice. And do you by any chance have like a background in like adversarial attacks on neural networks? Because I remember, so I had one paper that we were working on that used to do this for GANs and stuff, and like Uh, by any chance, like, is that what you did in your undergrad or anywhere else?
So I've done some work with GANs, but no, that's not where the background comes from. The background, like my research was more in like synthetic data generation, like high quality
Yeah.
synthetic data generation. So I am familiar with the amount of BS that goes into making a digital human or like an agent sound
Yeah.
realistic and human, and not just by like voice, not just by like TTS, but also just by like the content of what they're saying. Like in college, like we were working with like Poisson, like we were going down to the level of like doing Poisson distributions to see to vary the times in which someone would respond in a group chat to make it not feel like they're responding immediately, but they're responding in a bit, but it's not too long, and like keeping it varied. So like we were doing a lot of stuff like that. And so a couple of those ideas we kind of transferred over to Bluejay, which is why like when you listen to conversations that our Bluejay digital humans have with like your voice agent, it's like, I mean, it's virtually indiscernible from like a real human being, right? And it's just like, holy crap! Like these guys are like, so there's like this classic example that we have with one of our customers, right? And they're doing customer service, right? And so like what we have to do, or what they've chartered Bluejay to do, is they try to generate a bunch of angry customers that go and try to return products. And like when I tell you these recordings, that they are crazy. They're like, our customer will get mad. Like Bluejay's digital humans customer that does not exist will literally start yelling at like the voice agent, being like, hey, by the way, like I need you to like book these tickets for me. Like it needs to happen. Or, hey, I need to return this thing. Like what the hell is going on? Like they will get audibly frustrated. And like, that's because like one of the things on our platform you could do is you could change like not only the languages and accents and add background noise to each of these digital humans to make them sound more realistic, but you can also change their emotion, right? So you can make them sound sad, curious, hesitant, angry, frustrated. So you can do a lot of these things on our platform too. And the reason why we offer that to you is because we want to make your simulations sound like, once again, like hyper realistic, like as human as possible with the current technology.
Nice. Yeah, that seems like you've thought it through quite a lot.
Yeah.
So how did YC happen? You went to Y Combinator. Like, what was that journey from deciding you want to go here? And when is this, like, if you could give a sense of timelines, like from your restaurant idea to sort of moving to this, and like if you could give me your journey a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. So building with restaurants started sometime in like end of January throughout maybe mid-February, so like probably like a month. From mid-January to mid-February, so probably like a month.
Got it.
And like then we got attuned with the problem that we're solving today. We got really like excited about it. Started building it out. Applied to YC. Got in. I think like beginning of March or like end of February, something like that. Then we had a month of basically prep work, right? And we got into YC. The start in April, right? Then YC happened up until like June 16th, I think. So like maybe 2 weeks ago, give or take.
Yeah.
Then we raised our round. And now we are continuing to go full speed ahead, maintaining the same velocity as what we had in YC. But genuinely, like some of the most like rigorous times in my life, for sure.
Well, in YC. So how did that process go? Like, do you mind sharing? Like, for example, who was your partner? And like, what did YC, like, how were you getting into YC? And like, what did YC teach you? And then, where are you now? So like, if you could share a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I will say as a preface, like, I really wanted YC. Like, I was like one of those guys that in college, like, I would watch all the videos. Like, I would like pray to Gary, that kind of thing. But I had applied to YC maybe this is my third time applying to Y Combinator. First 2 times was with a separate idea, like a non-venture scale idea that I had in college. And third time was now with Bluejay. And like at this point, I really wanted it. So I had come into YC knowing like a lot of like if you like watch a lot of the videos, like the kind of advice that they would give you there. But I think the biggest thing that YC like provided me with the ability to do is like, first of all, like this like mindset shift, right? Like it's like you're surrounded by unbelievably smart people, and you're like, holy crap, like, do I deserve to be here? Like, this is crazy, right? But you're surrounded by unbelievably smart people, and you see them like, every 2 weeks, like when you meet with them in your smaller groups, you see them like achieving like these insane feats. Like you see people going from like, like 0 to like 50K in ARR in like, like in like a couple days. And then you see like another person like go like closing like a 400K contract, right? And when last week they were like at an ideation stage in their product, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is not like BS. Like people are not like, just like saying stuff online and like, no, like this is really happening, right? So like it's a bit daunting at first, where you're like, oh my gosh, like that is crazy. Like you're surrounded by these smart guys and they're just like out there and they're just taking what's theirs and they're killing it with their startups. I better do the same. But like the thing is that it starts to happen. Like you actually also start to do the same, because like it's literally like a product of you putting in time and effort, right? Like with perseverance and effort, you achieve your goals. That's like the mantra, right? And then at some point, like you start to normalize the obviously insane achievements that your batchmates are making, and as soon as you like normalize it, you also start to like achieve by yourself as well. Like we also like during one of our updates, we were at 10K in ARR, like and then within 2 weeks we went from 10K to 100K in ARR, nice. And now we're more than double, right? So like it just keeps on growing like faster and faster. And like I think the biggest value that YC provides is that like they provide you a community of people where you understand that it's like okay to do it like that, and like that's like what should be expected, and that's like what we like. You're surrounded by people who are like just as ambitious as you guys are to make their company succeed, which is a really, really good value add.
Yeah. I think like for a lot of people that might come off as a negative, like, hey, I mean, I don't have a time to think. I have to sort of catch up. But I think if you are in the right mindset, maybe it just acts as a stimulus. Maybe you just end up learning stuff that you never knew the world works this way at the top. Yeah. And now you know that. So that's very nice. And
I mean, I'd like to touch on that a bit, right? Like, this could sound very like daunting and just like, oh my God, like these guys are just like, there's no way that I can make it, because like I can't conceptualize, closing a $400,000 contract or any of that thing. Like, dude, none of us could. Like, not a single one of us like okay, like maybe some people are just like crazy like that. I'll speak for myself, right? But like I could not conceptualize like any of this before YC. Like I think like that's like kind of what I was trying to say. Like once you get into YC, like this idea of like this massive success and like, like these crazy milestones getting hit so fast becomes normalized. Well, only after you like kind of get in there and experience like, oh, like this is like what people are doing around you. Like before, like it was really hard to see whether that's possible. And like, yeah, I'm like very cognizant of the fact that this is like, it's mind blowing, and we're like insanely blessed and lucky and like just grateful to be in this position. But it is something that's very achievable. Like there's these people are like no different than people who are not in YC. They're just people who kept at it and kept ambitious and and kept working towards their goals, and they were just also happened to be surrounded by a community of people who were doing the same.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And so now you are more, would you say like you're more mature in terms of your thinking about like pricing and like all of the sort of business building from like a passion project? Is that what you would summarize it as? Like you're more like a formal business, like you think that way?
Yeah, I mean, I will say we're more mature, yes, and not fully mature in terms of thinking about our pricing strategies and thinking about our product offerings. And that's just because our product is also growing at light speed, right? Like as we add like another feature or like another offering, like for example, like halfway through the batch, we added a feature that really like transformed like the way we did pricing, and that's observability, right? And like just going briefly into it, right? Simulations is only half the pie. It's like pre-production testing. You could think about it as like, like after you've built the V1 of your voice agent, you run it by like a bunch of tests to see what's going on, and then you iteratively improve until you're ready for production, right? They're like just literally end-to-end tests. Think about it like that, right? But when you go into production, right, what provides their customers more value than simulating against real customers is actually monitoring interactions between their voice agent and real customers, right? And then from those calls, understanding what went wrong and then using what went wrong as fodder to create better simulations for the next pre-production cycle for testing, such that in the next release of your voice agent, you're that much better, right? So that's kind of what I meant by like the bottoms up approach, where you're like, you're not just telling us about your agent's capabilities, which is the top down approach. And like, we're testing that. You're also saying, hey, like these are like, 5 customer personas that are really tricky that we encounter in production that we want to make sure that we can handle. So that's the bottoms up approach. Like with information that you have from your actual customers, how can you make your voice agent better? But anyways, like this is, like this observability feature, right? And unlocked the way we did pricing, right? And like it really increased our and increased the amount of like revenue that we can make, increased potential, also increased expanded the market of people that we could talk to, right? And because of that, we changed our pricing strategies, and it worked out really well for us.
Interesting. And just to like give this perspective to everyone, you're just 2 people, right? Like in the company, or like
So we are. Sorry.
No, how does that work? I mean, like you're just 2 people doing like 200K ARR. You're less than 6 months old. Like, how does that work? How does that work? Yeah.
It works by working 7 days a week and doing nothing but. And once again, like, many people do this. We're also very grateful to be in this position. Like, this is not something that we are like taking for granted. We are like jaw on the floor all the time when we think about how much progress we've been grateful to make over the past couple months. But recently, like, this actually like segues into another really good point. We found that there is a limit that 2 people can do. And we are drowning like with like the amount of like inbound and the amount of like feature requests and like the amount of like, like there's just so much that needs to be done. Rohan and I are already working like 14, 15-hour days. And we made our first hire actually like 2 weeks ago, basically right after the batch, after we closed our round. So he was my founding engineer at my last company. And so I've known him for a couple of years, and like, he is an absolute killer. He's fantastic. So I'm really excited to bring him on board. Yeah. But the reason why I'm asking is because like, hey, like one of the biggest top of mind challenges for us right now is how we can scalably grow as a company, as we gear up for, larger milestones. For example, raising our A, or, reaching certain ARR milestones that we want to hit. Right. Right now, at least, the biggest limiting factor is in manpower, right? Like we are looking really desperately for a high quality engineer who's willing to hop on this rocket ship and just, grow with us. And just, what's up? We need Soham. We need Soham, man. We need Soham, but we need like a dedicated Soham,
Okay.
Yeah, dude. I was looking at that. I'm like, man, what a story, dude. What a story. I was making like what, 500-600K, easily. Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Sudarshan? Do you think that Soham's going to go and take this fame to build something of his own, or do you think he's just going to fade out of existence?
No, I think he'll. I looked at the TBPN interview that he had, right? Like, it did feel like he's a little overwhelmed right now. Like, he's probably doesn't know what he has. So he has all the attention in the valley. Everyone is talking about him. So I think he has joined some startup as a dedicated engineer. So I think he's gonna spend some time there. Otherwise, it might just go wrong on him. But then I do feel he is in a very good position right now to start a company in case sort of he decides to go aggressively. I hope he does that.
Absolutely.
I mean, whatever he pulled off is not easy. Okay, like I mean, I know he like cheated, like whatever, but then so difficult to do what he did, right? So I don't know.
No, yeah, it's definitely a tough task. Moonlighting is never an easy task per se. I guess maybe it's a wake up call though for companies to have, depending on their views on moonlighting, they should have inclusions inside of their offer letters that have a clause for moonlighting, right? And I think that's the real fix to all of this. Like, there should not be some kind of like some federal law that like, bans this thing, or like some high level mandate, right? It should just be like up to the company specifically, whether they're okay with a candidate doing this or not.
Yeah. And I think one thing he was also telling in the interviews was that, hey, most of the assignments were not that tough. They were just like either take home assignments, or like they were not even asking like, complex anything about like data structures, algos. So I think just there is a general like maybe bar that YC companies maybe have to now think a little more about hiring. But I'm sure you guys are already up to up to speed on that. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I do think that like the previous company that I ran was a recruiting company. So we were building like the first generation of AI agents for recruiting. So I put a lot of thought into this in terms of like what the ideal recruiting cycle will look like. And I don't think the answer here is lead code, right? Like we're, especially nowadays, right? Like, AI assisted development is here to stay. In fact, I don't know if development is here to stay. Like the AI assisted part is definitely staying.
Yeah, I think it'll be there for some time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree as well. But seriously, I mean, I think that like, just sitting someone down and seeing whether they can solve a lead code medium or a hard or something is not a good like indication of whether they can do a task or not anymore. I think the best way that I think mankind has discovered to qualify a candidate is a combination of take homes and work trials, right? And like take homes, like should be a staple of the interview process, but work trials, I mean, like this is like kind of up to the company whether they have the funding to do so, because I believe that work trials should be paid, right?
Yeah.
But if you could pay someone for like a week to hop onto your company, make them sign an NDA, like legally protect yourself, and then see how they actually contribute, right? Over the course of a week, you mitigate your risk quite drastically, right? So I mean that's a really good way of testing someone rather than just like having them, solve a leak code problem,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we have probation periods like for that, but I think work trial is like even better. So if people agree to that, nothing better than that. So you're gonna do that while you're hiring the team right now. That's your primary focus, getting like top quality engineers.
Yeah, that's a really, really strong top of mind focus for us because, we're lucky to once again to be, kind of just like overwhelmed with the amount of like inbound and requests that we're having right now. And there's only recent, so we're really excited by it, but we do need to sort through this, man.
Yeah, you will. And how are you thinking about building the team? Would it be like primarily in SF? Are you gonna hire remote, like in person? Like how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, we think the first couple hires need to be in person in SF. And we are more than willing to like pay and fly someone out and, deal with all of that stuff for them if they prove to us that they are top quality. Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. And how are you getting customers today? And like, I know it was mostly founder-led sales, but like, what is the channel that has worked? And how do you think that's gonna change in the future? Is it you're gonna keep sales still doing founder-led sales? You think about sales hires? Like, how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, eventually we will, hire a dedicated GTM. But right now it's all founder-led sales. We have a very strong LinkedIn inbound funnel.
Nice.
And our signature is being very scrappy. And yeah, that's like kind of what we're doing. So there's a couple of fun stories. But like, I'll give you like high levels, like in general, like whenever we sign a customer, especially if their office is in SF, we make an effort to deliver donuts to their door, and just like show up at their place. And that's not just like a, hey, like welcome to the team type tactic, right? It's also a good way for us to get into the office. And if, we have the opportunity to upsell, for example, integrate our observability API, we can now do that because we are there in person and we can talk with the engineers and like get them set up within the day. It's also a good way to put a face to the name and, make sure they're on our side. The other thing is like, I think there's like a rule, and this is like, Rohan is really, really good with this. And it's basically like, hey, listen, if we get a ping on Slack from one of our customers, like we will like drop everything and respond. Like no matter what we're doing, like you drop everything and respond. Like there was like one time Rohan was grabbing like dinner with one of our customers, right? And they asked him a question. They're like, so like what service are you using for Slack responses? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, so you're telling me that you're responding to those messages within like 2 minutes? And he's like, yeah, that's me. He's like, you're not using like Pylon or like some sneaky like, nope, that's just Rohan. So like we try to respond to our customers really fast, and give the impression that we're always up and always available. So yeah,
nice.
But
what like you sleep in shifts or something? Like you sleep in the morning and like he sleeps at night or something?
We are just so on call. Where you can imagine there's a 24/7 on call where we're terrorized by a Slack notification in our sleep.
Nice.
But no, I'm kidding. It's basically just like, like we stay as responsive as possible. Luckily our customers are not stress testing this by pinging us at 4 a.m. But it seems to be working right now.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, but we just do a bunch of fun stuff. Like in our last day of like YC, we showed up in Bluejay outfits, like full on Bluejay costumes,
Nice.
to kind of leave a lasting impression in people's heads. Like we were basically saying like, hey, dude, like our costume, our brand, our logo is like very, very like fluid and wearable. So we literally bought Bluejay costumes and like walked around and set our buys to our batch. And there was this time where like there was a customer conference. There was a conference for Voice AI. We really wanted to sponsor the thing like really badly. So we reached out to AWS and we're like, hey man, because it was in the AWS startup loft. And we're like, hey dude, can we sponsor this? And they said no. We said, why? They said, hey, a competitor actually has sponsored the event. We're like, shoot, like how do we sponsor this? Can we sponsor the plates? Can we sponsor like the pizza maybe? They're like, nope, been sponsored as well. Can we be on the panel? Nope, can't be on the panel, right? So we're like, okay, damn, like how do we do this, right? Because this is a big event, right?
Yeah.
Voice AI. So Rohan and I, 2 hours before the event, we show up, right, outside the main entrance, and we print out like a bunch of like postcard flyers of Bluejay saying like really quirky Voice AI testing stuff, like, like, hey, like, like a lot of really funny one-liners. It's like Bluejay, think about it as therapy for your AI agent, right? Or like fun, like cool one-liners. And we pass them out with a big poster, and we also wear our sunglasses, so we kind of look like the Bluejay logo that's constantly wearing sunglasses. And we basically made sure that anyone who walked into that event had a poster, like a postcard, like in their hand. So by the time our competitor gave their talk, right, they were looking into a sea of blue Bluejay postcards. And we actually closed like 2 clients off of that event, off of just doing that and being scrappy. And so yeah, it's like we try to take a really fun twist to GTM. And because we have like the scrappy feeling, our inbound is quite strong. Some of our largest clients have inbounded to us. And yeah, we're gonna do that for as long as possible, stay scrappy for as long as possible and see where it takes us.
Awesome. No, that's the only way to build. I think a lot of people end up like, I am gonna hire like 100 people, and then they are gonna build the product for me, and like I don't think that works. But awesome to hear like everything that you've been up to. What's the path ahead? Like, how if Bluejay becomes like really big, what do you see this becoming? Like, what's the vision?
Yeah. So, I mean, high level, like our Bluejay's charter is to solve non-determinism in AI, right? And the idea is that, we're going to give you the tools to make sure that you can trust the outcome of your voice agent. So like, very specifically, right, we want to engineer trust into every AI interaction between consumers or between businesses and consumers, right? And the way we're going to do that is by building this multimodal QA agency, right? So we're going to make sure that your agent is performing across all touch points, not just on voice. And this goes back to something I was saying a little bit earlier, right? So for example, if you're building an agent that, sends a phone call and says, hey, like, by the way, your appointment needs to be scheduled, right? And then it sends you a confirmation email saying, hey, by the way, this has been scheduled, and sends you a follow-up text saying, hey, like, by the way, your appointment's tomorrow, and then sends you like a survey, right? Saying, hey, by the way, like, how was your experience after the fact, right? We want to make sure that entire process works, not just the voice component, right? And the reason why we want to do this is because we think that like AI agents is going to be the default mode of interaction between consumers and businesses, right? So if we can QA not just at voice, but at every step of the process, I think it's a very lucrative position to be in.
Interesting. Nice. So yeah, hey, Faraz, so thanks for taking out the time. One last sort of question. Why the name Bluejay? Like, how did that come from? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so blue jays are, if you look them up, right, they're a bird that they do something very special. They emit a warning cry, and like very specifically when there's snakes or like other predators in the area, they emit something called the JJ cry, that alerts not just blue jays but like other bird species in the area that there is danger, right? Okay. Which we thought was quite apt for a company that alerts the users of danger when their agent is not performing well. So that is why we chose Bluejay.
Nice. And are you like a bird watcher? Like, are you to that stuff? Like, I don't know.
Not until I started working on Bluejay, and now I just watch Bluejay all day. So now I am a theoretical bird watcher.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking out the time for us. I'm super excited to hear about your journey, everything you've done. I think it's fucking incredible. Like, 2 people growing to the ARR you're at, doing your round, now building the next level of the company, and that vision that you have. I like wish you all the best, like with everything, and I'm sure like you're gonna pull it off, become really big. And yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time to get on this podcast with us.
Sudarshan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks.